Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and updates on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Daemon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Always a pleasure, Damon.
Same here. And Max Scoville, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Thanks for having me.
And we find ourselves at a very exciting time in the life of both of these platforms, PlayStation and the Xbox Series consoles. We are very likely about to begin the best 3 months of the entire console generation so far. Over the next several weeks, we're just going to have big game after big game after big game, and the lion's share of them are all next-gen only games. So let's take a look at what we've got coming up and why this is such a really fun and exciting time heading into the summer of 2023. Kicking things off, next week we're going to get Star Wars Jedi Survivor on April 28th, which is a next-gen only game. We'll have our review next week, but Ryan, I think Mitchell previewed that for us not too long ago and came away very, very positive on it, correct?
I have also had the pleasure of playing that one for 5 hours as part of our IGN First back in February. Mitchell and I were both at Respawn. And, it's one 5-hour chunk, and they're showing you what they want to show you, right? So you always have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. You don't know what the rest of the game looks like. But the 5 hours that I played and Mitchell agreed were just fantastic. I mean, it doesn't seem like a, real breaking the mold, reinventing itself kind of sequel. It seems more of the traditional, we know what worked, we know you like this, we're gonna evolve it and just give you more of it. That's my sense of it so far. And that is not a bad thing. That I love the original, and this thing, the sequel, Jedi Survivor, if it feels like it's going to be a very grand game in scope, because just running around Kobo, the planet Kobo for 5 hours, just seemed like there's a ton to do and a lot to unpack there. So if the rest of the game matches that and proves to have as many layers of the onion to peel back, I think that game's going to be probably one of the best and almost certainly one of the best selling games of the year as well.
Yeah, it also seems like it seems like it's going to feel like it's next gen, like it's actually taking advantage of the power of these next gen consoles. The file size is absolutely massive. It's over 150 gigs on PC. Imagine it's going to be very similar on consoles. So, Max, you are a known Star Warsman. You excited for Survivor?
Ryan's cautious optimism has my hype levels through the roof. No, I mean, I love the first one. I feel like people really pointed out that it had some bugs and some rough around the edges to it, but I just really enjoyed it. There were things I didn't like, but it felt like it kind of recaptured that, 90s LucasArts Star Wars adventure kind of feel. And it was, it had like modern sensibilities to it. It's just a really solid third-person action game. And, admittedly, my expectations for the first game were, sort of low because the Star Wars games we've gotten under EA haven't been mind-blowing. But that one really blew me away. And so if this one is more of the same and then more of that, then I'm happy to hear it. I'm very excited. And also, again, the fact that it's on next-gen hardware seems like a very good thing because the last one feels like that was pretty much came out on the tail end of last gen, and it was definitely kind of, it was showing the parts where it was had to stretch itself. So
also, Respawn's track record suggests that it's, the odds are in its favor that it's going to be a really, really good game.
Which should finally, on its own is sort of kicking off a big series of Xbox exclusive releases. That's on May 2nd. There's a lot to be excited for with this one. Arcane Austin, I believe, Dishonored and Prey. Not the team that did Death. What was the Death one from last year? Deathloop. Yeah, not that team. It's the Prey and Dishonored team. So great pedigree there. There's also some, possible red flags, if you will. 30 frames per second at launch, always online requirement, even if you're playing by yourself, and it's a new IP, an unknown quantity. So, Ryan, I think it's fair to say that although there's a lot to be excited for, excitement is a little muted for this one. Is that fair?
That's totally fair at this moment in time. I mean, the frame rate thing on console sapped a lot of the optimism and momentum that game had, and understandably so. I mean, we talked about it on this show, an episode or two back, of it's just That's not great in 2023, this far into the new console generation. Hopefully the 60 frames per second patch, the performance mode option, will come along sooner rather than later. But as far as the game itself, again, you look at Arcane's track record is very good. So 30 frames on console aside for the Series X and Series S, history suggests that the gameplay will be very, very good. I had a chance to play this in single player, not co-op, about a month or so ago, and it played really well. There was a lot to like about it. The town of Redfall itself was a great character. It was a very distinct place. So yeah, I'm eager to see where this ultimately lands, because, you know, as you said, Damon, this is kind of the start of the big stuff for Xbox. I mean, we did already get Hi-Fi Rush. I don't want to overlook that at all, because that was the awesome surprise that really kicked Xbox's year off to a much needed good start. And hopefully Redfall will kind of keep that going. It's the first really big Bethesda game to ship since they acquired ZeniMax and Bethesda. So I do hope that it lives up to the Arcane pedigree, and then, you know, we'll head into, we got Starfield September. My guess is Forza Motorsport's going to land after that in October, and we'll see, you know, at the June showcase if anything else is going to, any of the other big games for Xbox are going to hit this year or not.
Yeah, exactly. So Redfall is May 2nd, Xbox Series only and PC. Then on May 12th, we're going to get The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Not a next-gen game, not on PS5 or Xbox, but definitely one of the most significant games coming out over the next 3 months. We're going to talk about that a little more in a minute. Let's put a pin in that. We'll circle back a little bit later. But let's continue with these the next-gen games that are coming. Street Fighter VI is out June 2nd. It's next-gen only on Xbox. On PlayStation, it's coming to both PS4, PS5. But that's also a very exciting release. It seems to have a fleshed-out single-player mode. I don't play fighting games competitively, but I like a good campaign in a fighting game, like Mortal Kombat 11 had a really good one. So if the Street Fighter VI single-player stuff is fun, I will definitely be playing that. Then you got Diablo IV just a few days after that, June 6th. And Ryan, I think that's probably your most anticipated game right now.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
By a mile. I mean, it's, you know, I'm going to get some Zelda time in. Oh, I'm going to have to start a spreadsheet or something here, because Jedi Survivor really is the big, I'm really looking forward to that, having, again, had the privilege to already play it and have a basis for my excitement. So that's going to be big. I got to spend some time in Redfall and see where, you know, see how long that holds me and where that leads me. But yeah, come June 6th, bye. You'll find me in Sanctuary. That, by the way, confirmed. Yeah, it's cross-gen, but it was confirmed on the Major Nelson podcast with, I believe, Rod Ferguson, or maybe it was Jay Shelley, the director. Joe Shelley, pardon me. It's 4K, native 4K, 60 frames on the Series X. So, you know, that's what you'd expect. That's what you'd want. But it's good to have the confirmation. No dynamic frame rate, none of that stuff going on. It's going to be definitely putting the Xbox Series X to good use. And I played it originally on PC back in the press beta in December, and then the most recent beta, the beta weekends that everybody got a chance to jump in on, I played on Series X and was really technically impressed by it on Xbox. So yeah, I think I'm gonna main on Xbox, and, you know, if I want to bounce over to PC for some mouse and keyboard action, I will do that. But I'm not sure I'm gonna leave my couch and venture beyond the Xbox Series X for Diablo 4, but yeah, I'm gonna be lost in that one. Mm-hmm. That's my numero uno for the short term.
I might back burner that one, just because Diablo is such a massive game, and obviously I'll mess with it at launch. But like, based on what Blizzard's been saying, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of ongoing post-launch content, that they're really kind of approaching this almost like an MMO. So like, I feel like it's going to be the kind of thing where, you know, they pop up with some announcement, some new thing they're throwing in there. So it's never really going to be a bad time to jump in and check it out. And
the Battle Pass is 80 hours, according to Blizzard.
I don't have 80 hours.
So that's a lot. But what I think is great about, one of the many great things that I think Blizzard's really been executing the plan with Diablo 4 very well. I think they've been very inclusive of the community and the feedback. The fact that they did these betas and then published a lengthy, detailed blog post about, okay, here's exactly what we're going to change for the day one game based on the feedback you gave us from the beta. So instead of launching the game and having people go, yeah, this is fun, this is overpowered, that needs to be buffed up a little bit, that phase one of that's already done. So we're already getting a more polished version of this on June 6th than we would get for a lot of games like this that are going to be making tweaks and changes based on player feedback. So yeah, I love everything that Diablo's putting down right now.
And then Max, you'll be getting a PlayStation 5 exclusive at the end of June, capping off this incredible run of big game releases, Final Fantasy XVI, which we got a state of play of for last week. I think people are really excited for this one. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good. It looks gorgeous. I'm just really excited to see just an exclusive PlayStation 5 game. It's just a PlayStation 5 game. Like, I really want to see what they're actually doing with that machine and see how they really kind of push the boundaries. As for this is definitely not the most excited I've been for a Final Fantasy game. It seems okay. I think, there's obviously like a diehard audience that's going to jump onto it. But the sort of main character, Clive, hasn't really done much for me. He seems he's cool, I guess. But if I'm going to be spending 100 hours with him, I'm going to have to get to know him a little bit first. But the massive sort of icon summon battles that they've been showing off seem really neat. I love that they're basically putting mini games within combat. It's almost like the different summons have like different gameplay styles that go with them, which has like a sort of a pinch of like WarioWare in there, which I kind of love. It's going to be really interesting to see how it fares sales wise, just because we've got like a massive, huge PS5 install base. But Final Fantasy, I think, in Street Fighter to a similar degree, in 2023, people have kind of made up their minds about what they think of these franchises. Are you into JRPGs? This has done a lot of things to kind of shake up the formula, but at the end of the day, it is still Final Fantasy. So, are they going to attract an entirely new audience like they're setting out to do? Remains to be seen.
Well, I think it's really well timed on Sony's part, because as it has shaken out, they don't have any first-party stuff in the near term. And so, they can effectively treat Final Fantasy XVI like a first-party game.
You might as well,
putting a ton of marketing behind it. There's nothing else around it for. We had the PSVR 2 launch, which sadly seems to have been
what now?
Exactly. I say that as somebody who spent the $550. Spider-Man is rumored for September, and we just know it's in the fall sometime. Wolverine is past that. So, this is effectively a first-party release.
Yeah.
Even though Square's the publisher. It's it worked out pretty well for Sony, I think, on this one.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay, so that's what the next 3 months looks like. It's unusual these days to get that many big AAA releases in such a short time span. And you've got a great mix of genres too. You've got action adventure, fighting game, first-person shooter, dungeon crawling, JRPG. It's just going to be a really exciting time to be a next-gen console owner. But the wild card is Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. It's entirely possible that could end up being the most talked about game over the next quarter, even though it's going to be running on 6-year-old hardware. Ryan, does that tell us anything? If in the midst of all these giant big next-gen releases, the most talked about game could possibly end up being, for a much less powerful hardware?
Well, no, the installed base of the Switch is bigger than the Series X, Series S, and PS5 combined. As awesome of a start as the PS5 in particular is off to, the Switch being 6 years old, that is an event. This game is an event. This sequel has been anticipated for a long time, and it is. I fully expect Tears of the Kingdom to be one of the best-selling games of the year. Usually it's Call of Duty, which comes out in November and just has a mammoth launch and is the #1 selling game of the year. I would not be surprised if Tears of the Kingdom knocks it off. I know Call of Duty, we are getting one this year. It's a Modern Warfare 2.5, so is that going to cause sales to be a little flatter than they normally would be in a traditional new Call of Duty year? Maybe. And yeah, it's multi-platform, including PC, and Zelda's not. But what are we at? Is it 120 million Switches? I actually don't recall the number off the top of my head. It's a lot, and all of them are looking like the overwhelming majority of those people are at least aware of this game if they don't already have it pre-ordered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is also, it's interesting because I believe this is the longest development time between mainline Zelda entries, which is, it doesn't seem like that long because we're old and time just passes us by. But I think there was sort of some skepticism that it looked a little bit too samey compared to Breath of the Wild. But then that most recent demo that sort of showed off some of the crazy stuff you could do with physics, I feel like they, sprinkled a little bit of Kerbal Space Program in there where you can, or, Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts or what have you. I feel like that is going to kind of advertise itself. Like we saw how many people did absolutely insane stuff using, the Sheikah Slate in the first game. And that was the sort of chemistry set sandbox that they set out with, considerably more rudimentary mechanics compared to what they've already shown off for the new one. So I feel like we're going to see just social media is going to be filled with stuff from this. People are going to be, sharing crazy tricks they pulled off on TikTok, on Reddit, just on Twitter, whatever. It's going to be all over the place. And it's Zelda, it's a household name. So looking forward to it.
Well, in any case, gamers on all platforms are going to be eating very well over the next 3 months. It could end up being the best 3 months for game releases of the entire year, because after Final Fantasy XVI on June 22nd, I think Starfield in September is the only big release date we have for the back half of the year. But of course, we're going to have a whole bunch of showcases in not E3, early June, around the usual E3 window. So we'll see how the rest of the year shakes out and see if there can be another 12 consecutive weeks that see just this many big AAA game releases. We have the results of the poll from last episode. We asked you, what new hardware would you be most excited for? And perhaps, unsurprisingly, a Nintendo Switch 2 or a Nintendo Switch Pro, new hardware from Nintendo, won by a landslide. Over 61% of respondents said this. Not too surprising, I guess. It's the platform hardware that is probably the most in need of an upgrade. And we have a new poll for you to vote on for next episode. What is your must-play game of this summer, 2023? It's going to be Zelda, Diablo IV, Redfall. It could even be something coming after June, maybe Pikmin 4. Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we'll share the results with you next episode. And that will do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Ryan and Max. Happy to be getting Ryan out the door before his heart out. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes in our LA and San Francisco studios to make this episode possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back next week with more PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and maybe some Nintendo news too. We'll see you then.